The value of the running back position has been a hot topic in recent years as they were once the true difference makers. We then went through a period of time where running backs were being drafted early to turn the franchise around, and regardless of their ability, they would fail to stay healthy, and without good play calling and a good offensive line, even the most talented running backs couldn't provide efficiency. On top of this, the most efficient running backs in the game were being drafted in the second round anyway. In terms of where we stand today, we had a strong group last year where the Falcons and the Lions fought back on the trend of not valuing running backs and went and got their guy early in the first. However, an important thing to remember is that these teams both had very good offensive lines. By taking these running backs, they were not asking them to turn a franchise around, but to simply be a weapon in an already functional team. So today I wanted to find out if we have any running backs in the 2025 class who I think could be worthy of a first round pick, because according to what I hear, this is a special group. So the 4 prospects we are looking at today are Ollie Gordon II, Quinshon Judkins, Omarion Hampton and Ashton Jeanty. And we begin here with Ollie Gordon II out of Oklahoma State, which may come as a surprise to many as he's rushed for more yards than anyone in college football. He's been spoken about in the Heisman conversation. He's bigger than these other prospects we're going to speak about, and I think some people are looking at him as maybe the next Derrick Henry. My issue is that he doesn't move the same way as these other prospects do. He's got good vision, he's pretty assertive. I think he'll be tough to bring down and he'll wear on a defense having to face him all game. However, the reality of things in the NFL is that the holes are going to close up much faster, and I don't think he has the burst, the short area quickness to be seriously efficient in the league. I just don't think what made him dominant in college is going to make him dominant in the NFL. I don't think it's translatable. I would probably consider him more of a day 2 pick, and if you can get him there, you can feel great about it, but just not special enough to be a first rounder for me. Now at number 3, I've got Quinshon Judkins. Formerly of Ole Miss, but he has now transferred to Ohio State to compete with a player who is also high up in many rankings in this draft class in Travion Henderson. Quinshon Judkins is exactly what I was speaking about earlier in terms of a guy who you take early to be a weapon in a creative offense that's already built its foundations, because he is electric. Ole Miss were always trying to get him in space with outside runs, tosses, sweeps, just anything to take advantage of his speed and his burst. He's listed at 6 foot, 219 pounds. He doesn't look that way to me on film, but maybe I'm just saying that because he is so quick and I've assumed instinctually that he was a bit lightweight. He has a ton of missed tackles, guys are flying at his ankles, and he's just too quick, too balanced to be stopped. The main thing that gives me pause is that I don't think he has very good vision. I think he misses opportunities and is really just running at the zone he's told to attack. So I would genuinely consider him in the first round if I'm the Eagles, for example, next year. Maybe that's a rogue shout, but if they do return to success, this offensive line is still spectacular. They have the receivers, and now you can give Saquon some reps off so he's fresh and on form. And on top of this, you would have a completely different dynamic to add with Quinshon Judkins stretching the field as well. It's that sort of luxury pick where I could see the logic in taking him in the first round. However, there's only a handful of teams that can afford to take that luxury in the first round as opposed to addressing a true hole. So I could certainly see him slipping to the second round. And now it gets really exciting in my opinion, because these next 2 are special and they're definitely being overlooked. Starting with Ashton Jeanty out of Boise State. The reality is that he's 5'9" and he's not on a big name college team, and so he's not going to get the hype just yet, and maybe he remains overlooked to a certain extent, but when you just look at it for what it is and what's going to be effective in the NFL, he reminds me of Kyren Williams for the Rams. He's undersized but makes these short area movements, and these are what really makes the difference between a 2-yard play and a 5-yard play, because remember, 3 yards per carry in the NFL would be historically bad in terms of efficiency. 6 yards per carry in the NFL would be historically good efficiency. Everyone gets too invested in eye-catching physical traits, but it's the short area efficiency that is going to make the difference. And I'm telling you, Ashton Jeanty is so sharp. He was more efficient than any of these other guys statistically and had more forced tackles. And as I often state, the stats are only there to give some extra juice to what I'm saying. They're not the be all and end all, but I can certainly see the reasons for his production on his film. What I haven't mentioned is that Jeanty actually had more receiving yards than anyone in the FBS. Now, something that I've realised watching some of the better receiving backs in the NFL, or certainly the more productive ones, Austin Eckler for example, is that actually receiving backs, it's not always a case of being a legit slot receiver. It's more the type of runners that work well in space often are the better receiving backs, because that's what you're doing. You're dumping it off to them on a check down, and the area isn't so muddy. And so it's not necessarily legit receiving ability. It can just be the areas where they're receiving the ball. And this is Ashton Jeanty because he's not the biggest, but his efficiency in short areas makes him very useful in the receiving game. It was very, very close between him and Quinshon Judkins. And as weird as this may sound, I think I'd actually be more inclined to be looking at Quinshon Judkins if I had a first round pick, because like I've said, the situation I'm looking to take a running back in the first round is a weapon. I already have all the foundations set up. I have a great offensive line, I have the play calling, and I just want a cherry on top who can really make things happen. That's more Quinshon Judkins. But when you get to the second round and you're just looking for someone who's going to be efficient in a, let's say, average offensive line, I'm looking at Ashton Jeanty. I guess there's just more teams that I would be taking Ashton Jeanty with than Quinshon Judkins, is guess what I'm saying. But it was very, very close between those two. And now we get to what is, believe it or not, clearly RB1 to me. Omarion Hampton out of North Carolina, and someone mentioned this guy in the comments, so I made sure to have him in the ranking because I like people engaging in the videos. I want to hear who you're interested in, but I was not in any way prepared to have this guy as my RB1. It's hard to make cut and dry statements about running backs because situation is vital and health is very unpredictable with running backs. But if Hampton ends up in the right situation and stays healthy, he's going to be Nick Chubb or Jonathan Taylor, a run heavy team that just has this super efficient running back. It's rare in the NFL, but they do come along still every now and then, where you really do start to build around this running game. Hampton breaks so many tackles with his core strength and power, but of course he combines it with real burst and elite short area quickness. This is why he has so many missed tackles forced, really, is super efficient short area movement. I think he has great vision, he's assertive where he needs to be, he's patient where he needs to be, and he recognises the gaps as they open up. He was very efficient last season with 5.9 yards per carry, and I can absolutely see why. This was his first season of getting serious first team reps, so not too much tread on the tyres. He should be in his prime coming into the league and have plenty of years left. The days of the Giants taking Saquon Barkley with a second overall pick and not much of a foundation, those days are over because that's just not the way to do it without any foundation to help the guy out. But I am taking Omarion Hampton in the first round if I have a solid foundation, because he can give you the potential of an elite running game. And of course, like the Titans with Derrick Henry, where Tannehill played his best football, if you have a great running game, the passing game opens up, there's more space because teams have to stack the box. I think of maybe the Patriots, if things do work out. I'm not a huge fan of Drake May, but if things do work out there and they don't have a super high first round pick, they have a good offensive line, maybe you look at Omarion Hampton, bring this guy in and you just lay down a really solid running game. That massively helps out a young quarterback. So I can really see the value of doing that with someone who I think is really special in Hampton. I don't want to overcomplicate it. I don't want to try and give loads of little details as to why Hampton is the best one for me, because I want to make clear what's really important to me is his short area efficiency, and he is absolutely the man. I don't know if he's going to rise on boards. I don't know if people will just continue to miss it, but definitely remember the name Omarion Hampton. So there you have it, my running back ranking so far. I've got offensive tackle coming very soon because I'm mostly done with the film there. If you do enjoy the content, please subscribe, it's massively appreciated. Let me know if there's anything I've missed or anything you want me to take a look at, and I'll see you next time.